By the time the live-action version of Mulan hit Disney+, we had all heard the chatter about controversies, from political to plot issues. As the finished movie is now available for streaming, it is time to find out the truth for oneself. Hi there, it's Micha. Join me and I will share my thoughts with you. Hua Mulan is not your typical imperial area Chinese girl. She was always behaving more like a boy, which her father secretly approves of.
We have excellent news! The matchmaker has found you an auspicious match.
It is decided. Come and sit down.
Though tradition and society asks him to openly oppose that kind of behavior.
It is what is best for our family.
Yes, I will bring honor to us all.
On top of that, she is also presenting a lot of Qi, a power that makes her reflexes become faster, a predisposition for becoming a great warrior. After suppressing her talents for years, her time finally comes when China is invaded by Ruran warriors, supported by a female sorcerer able to turn into a falcon. The Emperor is asking each family to send a male member to support the fight to defend the country.
By edict of His Imperial Majesty, every family must contribute one man to fight.
Have you no son?
I am blessed with 2 daughters. I will fight.
With Mulan's father being a war hero, who has suffered a painful and debilitating leg wound during the previous campaign, she decides to go in his place.
Loyal, brave, and true.
Which she can only do
It is my duty to protect my family.
by pretending to be a man.
What is your name, soldier?
Hua Jun, Commander, son of Hua Zhou.
We're going to make men out of every single one of you.
While being trained for combat, initially starting out on the wrong foot, she quickly bonds with some fellow recruits, always being careful not to be identified as a woman and keeping her Qi at bay, so not to draw attention to herself. Of course, sooner or later her talents shine through and her battalion is assigned a key role that will have a severe impact on the outcome of the war. And then some. To keep this review soft on spoilers, I will not give more details regarding the plot. Let's start the review by looking at the controversies I mentioned before, and how, or if, they impacted the viewing experience. The first is political, as lead actress Yi-Fai Liu tweeted a comment suggesting she supports the police brutality utilized during the Hong Kong protests. Well, this may have led to some people boycotting the movie on principle, but it doesn't influence the movie itself. It is always a tough subject. Do you boycott a movie because the acts of one person involved appall you? While at the same time negating the work everyone else have put into it, making them suffer financially or taking a career hit? Or take a separate approach? Personally, I don't think producers and co-workers should be held accountable for other individuals' actions. So I try to take those issues out of the picture. Let's stick with the political issues and look at the filming locations. Parts of the movie were filmed in Xinjiang, where internment camps for ethnical minorities are located, with the producers thanking the region for letting them film there in the credits. Another tricky one, and obviously not Disney's finest hour. Again, you need to figure it out for yourself how much this impacts your opinion on the company. But to be fair to the film, again, this doesn't impact the movie itself. The next one, however, does impact the movie, which is the lack of diversity in the overall production team. While The House of Mouse did a very good job of avoiding controversies around the topic of whitewashing the movie, meaning hiring actors without Asian heritage in the lead roles, not even throwing in the usual token white guy like Martin Freeman in Black Panther anywhere in the movie, and also hired a female director for the movie, I was perplexed to read back then that the director was from New Zealand. And apparently all other key positions, including the writers, were recruited from the Caucasian pool, along with most of the backstage talent. I truly can't understand that step, especially around the director and writers, as this profoundly impacted the movie, but more on that later. The last controversy was around the removal of Mulan's love interest that she had in her training officer Li Chen. Something that was well intended, as people may rightfully think it's inappropriate for a commanding officer to fall in love with a recruit. But as that, in the original, happened after Mulan was under his command, it should not have been an issue. And since Li Chang became some kind of an LGBTQ+ icon over the years, it was met with an uproar. However, Disney made it clear that the same relation is now to be found in another recruit, which put that controversy mostly to rest. But let's use that topic as a segue to start looking into the issues I had with the screenplay. And to put things into perspective from the beginning, the movie is not bad. It is just not particularly good either. We will look together at the reasons why it ended up being just average fare. One of the main differences between this version and the animated predecessor is the fact how Mulan is presented, which in the prior version was a normal girl who needed to work hard to make it as a soldier, almost dropping out. I get the fact that in the new iteration they wanted a more modern approach, making her stronger, which would have worked just fine, but they overdid it, giving her superpowers she even needs to hide, completely ignoring the struggles she had to overcome in the animated version, but also making her unrelatable for viewers now, as only few girls growing up had to deal with semi-magical powers, and as an allegory of being different, it didn't work that well either. Her big struggle in this movie is to accept that she must present herself in her true female form to everyone around her, so she is not deceitful.
You will now take the oath of the warrior.
Loyal! Brave! True!
Which is a nice sentiment if the action would have taken place today, as she would have been killed on the spot back then, which almost happened in this movie as well. That would have made her a martyr, sure, but then the movie would have had a completely different story. By the way, Chinese audiences weren't happy with the way they used the qi as a superpower, as it is more the idea of an energy flow that helps to bring alignment and balance between human and nature. And returning now to the point of her love interest, if they really wanted to portray her as that strong, independent woman, why even bother bringing in a love interest? Is that really needed to validate her? I don't think so. Especially as the movie never gave us a reason to understand why Mulan is interested in that guy in the first place, as he treated her, while posing as a man, badly, and at the first sign of his interest, she apparently is already completely into him. Not a very modern take, but hey, at least they kept the romance in. Which is more than I can say about fan favorite character Mushu, who was axed from the movie completely, being replaced by a weird phoenix that just pops in sometimes here and there whenever Mulan needs help, silently showing her the way. One can only assume why they decided to drop Mushu, but more realism couldn't be the explanation, because they also brought in an actual sorceress, able to shapeshift and even take the form of other people, making it overall less realistic than the original. Which is puzzling, as the screenplay otherwise tries hard to be more realistic and closer to the original story behind it all, the Ballad of Mulan, which takes place between the 4th and 6th century. Based on that source, they changed the character's name from Fa Mulan to Hua Mulan and made the invading forces Rouran tribes, the predecessors of the Huns, who were the opponents in the animated version. By the way, in the previous version, the leader of the Huns also had a falcon, but it was just that, not a shapeshifter. And talking about her, that was one of the worst developed characters I have seen in quite a while. There was no reason or motivation for her supporting the invaders, except that society called her a witch growing up. The same way villagers called Mulan a witch when she used her qi. The writers apparently tried to build a connection based on that between Mulan and the sorceress, and also wanted to show that you don't need to become a villain if you have superpowers.
You will die pretending to be something you're not.
Yet here I stand, proof that there is a place for people like us.
But on one hand, that still didn't shine more light on the shapeshifter's backstory, and also is a stupid comparison. Being a better fighter and having actual magical powers are not really the same thing.
No survivors.
They also decided to not have any songs being sung in this one, but in some scenes you can hear the melodies of the according songs in the background. It was likely meant as an homage to the original, but just ended up reminding you to not hear the songs you would have loved to hear in that moment, and at least in one scene, They were directly quoting the song text. To a similar effect. Let's try to summarize. Everyone who loved the original saw all the best qualities being stripped away. Mulan being a normal girl, which makes her struggles in the original so much more relatable. The classic songs. The charming sidekicks, both human, as her fellow recruits were also quite bland in the remake, not as edgy and distinct as in the animated version, and animals, if you want to call Mushu an animal. The lucky cricket is also gone, only replaced by a spider in one scene, and Mulan's sympathetic grandma is missing as well. And for kids loving the original, the body count of dead warriors in Mulan's wake might be a bit disturbing. And everyone who was willing to accept these concessions to see a more authentic, more Asian-oriented version of the story was presented with some weird scenes, like those where Mulan seems to be able to teleport from one place to another, and on top of that a lot of magical mumbo-jumbo, courtesy of writers without a better understanding of the culture, and average martial arts sequences and storytelling, which might have looked different with a skilled and experienced Chinese director at the helm. In a nutshell, they seem to have tried to please everyone, but ended up disappointing most of their audience. If you love the original, rewatch it, as I did. Review will follow shortly. And if you are looking for a well-filmed martial arts picture about a strong woman, you will find better fare coming directly out of Asia. It is not a total bust though, as the acting is mostly solid, the cast is impressive, imagery is fine, and it has some entertaining value. It just never wows you, always making you miss the original. So if you are interested and know what to expect, you might even end up liking it a lot. I will score this one with 5 out of 10 points, meaning solid average, nothing more but also nothing less. Have you seen the movie and do you agree? Or do you have another take on it? Let me know in the comments. That's it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, like it and feel free to share it with your friends. And why not subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future video. Make sure to also hit the notification bell to get a heads up whenever a new video is posted. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching!